Hello, my name is Mike, and I'm with Campus Life. Thank you again for tuning in for another episode of the Clubcast. Our team has thoroughly enjoyed producing these for you. When I was a small kid, my favorite game to play was hiding. Not really hide and go seek, just I loved to hide from my parents. My mom would take me to the store and I would hide. I'd be watching TV with my dad and he'd leave the room to get a drink and I would hide. And it was so much fun. It was one of the best things you could do as a 5-year-old. And one day, I got up the courage to venture into our crawl space underneath our house. I had been told multiple times very clearly by my parents, never go into the crawl space. But one day I got the courage to go into the crawl space, into that dark and dirty place, and find my best hiding place ever. And I remember my mom coming outside and calling out my name, and she's calling my name and I'm nowhere to be found, and it was so funny. And then she goes inside and I can hear her above me on the floor going from room to room calling my name and looking for me, and she can't find me. She comes back outside again and I hear her calling my name as she walks away and evidently goes next door to the neighbor's house and comes back with me. And they're talking and she's calling out my name, and this is just so much fun until it wasn't. I remember that first moment that my mom's voice began to crack and she began to cry. I knew I had taken this way too far. Within just a matter of minutes, it seemed like the whole neighborhood surrounded my house and they were all looking for me, sending out search parties in every direction with no success. And then my dad came home. Oh crap. And then the police arrived. And it came to my realization that I was never going to leave that crawl space again in my life. I was going to spend the rest of my life in that dark, dirty place. I just couldn't imagine facing my mom, realizing the hurt that I had caused her. I didn't want to face all the neighbors who probably would point at me and go, "Oh, that's that bad kid. Stay away from him. He's a bad one." And my dad, I knew my dad was going to kill me. It was going to be the end of Mike Green. I was scared. I disappointed everybody. I disappointed myself because I had been told that I was never supposed to go where I went. I was trapped. I was stuck. About 9 years later, I found myself stuck again. I began to wrestle with the story of Jesus. You know the one in the Bible, how God sent his son Jesus to earth to die for us, and then God raised him back to life. As a kid, I'd heard that. I'd been in church sometimes and I'd heard that story. And it's not that I didn't believe it was true. I just didn't have any idea what that story had anything to do with me. But there I was in 8th grade and something changed. I began to think about that story in a different way. It sort of moved from sort of a head thing to sort of a heart thing, because I had begun to realize that I wasn't the good kid that everybody thought I was. I wasn't the good kid that I even thought I was. I've been making a series of mistakes, and now I knew everybody was disappointed in me, and I was disappointed in me as well. And I knew somehow in the midst of that Jesus story that he had the answer for me. There was something about that story and his love and forgiveness that I knew that's what I needed, but I was too scared. I was scared of facing what he thought of me, what he would say to me, what he would do to me. I was afraid that he wanted really nothing to do with me. And so I was too scared to do anything. I felt trapped. I felt stuck all over again. So there I was at 5 years old. I'd been into this house for what seemed like weeks. I know it was only a couple of hours, and I just couldn't see any way out when I heard all the people around the house talking about, has anybody gone underneath the house into the crawl space to see if he's hiding underneath there? And somebody actually had already come in and looked around for me, but with no success. But from what I can pick up from the conversation, my dad was going to come into the crawl space. He was in his dress work clothes, and he got down in his belly in the dirt, and I heard the door creak open, and he crawled into the space. And underneath the house is like a maze. It's dark, and to find me was evidently very difficult because they failed the first time. But he's in the maze looking for me, and I'm hiding, but I begin to do a strange thing. I notice that I begin to let out this very small, almost inaudible whimper. Why? When I was hiding, would I make a noise? Well, the answer is because I wanted to be found. I needed someone who would rescue me. There was no way I was going to crawl out from underneath that house myself. I needed someone to come find me. And so I'm making that noise. My dad hears it. He begins to make his way directly towards me. And just before he reaches me, I close my eyes because I didn't know what was about to happen. And with my eyes closed, I remember him reaching out and grabbing my arm. He doesn't squeeze it. He doesn't yank it. He doesn't yell at me. And because of that, I open my eyes and I see my dad smiling. And I know that everything is going to be okay. The Bible says that if we confess with our mouth that Jesus is God, meaning if you confess something, you have to know and believe that it's true. And the rest of it says, and if we believe in our heart, that God raised Jesus from the dead, that Jesus story, if we believe in our heart that that Jesus story is real, and that it's not just that it's true, but we need it, what it says is that God will come rescue us. Do you need God to come rescue you? It's what I needed underneath that house that day. It's also what I needed when I was 14. Maybe it's what you need. What I learned underneath that house is that when somebody's looking for you, you don't have to necessarily scream. All you have to do is let out a very small, almost inaudible whisper. I'm going to ask you to do two things today. If you'd like Jesus to rescue you, I'm going to ask you to do this. One, would you let out just a small whisper that Jesus can hear? I don't know, you could say a lot of different things, but maybe one thing you might do is just say, here I am. Here I am. And what I know about Jesus is that as soon as he hears that, he will come running. The second thing I'd like to ask you to do is, you've seen these crazy Campus Life leaders doing all this fun stuff. We would love to get to know you and pray for you and help you as you begin this adventure. So would you go to our Instagram account, our T-Town Campus Life, and direct message us. You can say anything you want, but maybe what you just want to say is, here I am. And we'll know what that means. Thank you guys. We appreciate you tuning in. We look forward to talking to you real soon.